Traders, my apologies for missing this weekend's edition. I'm trying to catch up now. It's just been what it's been. Ides of March and all that. So it is Tuesday, the 18th of March. Let me try and catch you guys up. We'll go through the markets, some interesting developments as we go. But this coming week, I really want to be paying attention to the economic projections. Doesn't always come up, so I'm curious to see how all of this is going to be digested here. I'm curious to see if the current administration's actions are impacting the outlook for the US. Then that to me would be interesting as well, which is the existing home sales are expected to be lower. I'm curious to see if that starts to drop as well. So really watching a lot of those things. Otherwise, not really excited about any much else there. But also be aware there's a holiday in Japan on March the 20th. Okay, so that being said, let's go across to the charts and see what they're telling us. You know what, before I do, if I could ask you a kindness, right? If I could ask you a kindness, I have been nominated by Simon Campbell for Best Educator Mentor. This is a real privilege and an honor for me. And excuse me, as I've been nominated, I figure, well, that's very nice. I would love it if you would consider casting your vote for me. I would absolutely appreciate that. I'd be forever grateful. This is I'll send you the link. It'll be included in the description below. But if you're able to do that, that would be absolutely fantastic. I'm rubbing shoulders with very good educators, so I'm blessed either way. But I'm very flattered and honored to be nominated for this, and I would love to have your support on that if you would want to do that as well. So very briefly, this can be found at ixtradershow.com. Traders Best Choice, Best Educator Mentor, blah, blah, blah. I'll put the link in the description below. And again, if you could see your way to sort of approving me for that, that would be amazing. You don't have to. There's no pressure. We're all adults, but I very rarely get involved in these kinds of things, and it's very flattering, and I'd love to see if I can give something back. So thank you very much. Okay, so let's start off with the VIX, although we've seen a rise, and this is something slightly different. It appears as though we might have the beginning of a bit of a trend here. We've pulled back into the moving averages. So what we could see here is good Lord, what's wrong here? Stutter. Instead of a sharp spike, just a consistent increase in that. Okay, and overall, weekly perspective, doesn't look that bad, but here it does look as though it's preparing to continue to move higher. So shorter term, yeah, I expect this to we'll see how it goes. It might just top out here, but let's see how that plays out. So then we have a look at the dollar index. So dollar index, as I speak, continuing to trend right down, breaking through these lows. Currently looking very intent on heading straight to $100 at this point in time. Isn't guaranteed, but certainly is showing intention to continue to head lower. Okay, we're now just past halfway through March, and this is just a very strong, very aggressive move, and this trend looks very, very healthy at this point in time. Minimal retracement and heading off, almost kind of the kind of steam with which it headed up, but now looking a little bit more aggressive. So for now, my expectation is to see that to continue to head lower. Euro dollar as well, waiting for that pullback. It's just done the minimum pullback and is continuing up. We want to see a break above these highs, which it is. There we go. So this is now starting to look more and more bullish. I beg your pardon. Let's have a look at this from a weekly perspective. There we go. Wrong time frame on that chart. Again, also here, makes sense that it's going to head up to 1.103, possibly 1.12. So again, day trading opportunities tomorrow could be good this week for the remainder of the week. GBP. Also, minimal, like this is just very, very aggressive. A lot of this hinting at that weaker dollar. Again, breaking through key resistance levels here. Seems like it does have more room to the upside. And look at it from a monthly perspective, being almost range bound at this point in time. Yes, makes sense that it's got more. The path of least resistance is to the upside. Sorry, taking a long way to get there. Interesting to me, yen pairs not really showing the same kind of bearishness that they have in the past. They pulled right back up through here, did not find resistance in this area, broke back up through it over here. It's just lost that bearishness. It's just not really there. So I think if it's possibly below 150, there's no real urgency there. And actually, a lot of the yen pairs are looking more bullish than bearish. So I'm going to leave this alone for now. I know it's got a bearish candle forming there. We could see it continue to head lower with a weaker dollar, but just not seeing a lot of that just yet. I would add, though, from a monthly perspective, it's broken through this key level. Downside also looks relatively free and open. Dollar Susi, right as we speak, kind of testing this temporary level of support on the daily. Let's get rid of that. You don't need that. And also here below these moving averages here. So definitely to me, and monthly perspective, looks as though it's got the other side of the range. It will hit some support in the midpoint of the range, which is around 0.87 or 8690. But for now, I expect this to continue to head lower. Then dollar CAD, which just has no clear trend at the moment, guys. Nothing at all. Although it has overstretched itself and you would think is wanting to head back down towards the moving averages, there's just no clear trend at the moment. So let that continue to battle itself out and decide what it wants to do. Let's take a look at gold. So gold, no doubt, definitely in a bubble, just absolutely continuing to go. But having said that, I can see some very clear divergence here on the daily, but this trend here is nice and strong, a little bit overextended at this point. This weekly chart just looks amazing. It really does. And just, again, minimal pullback, continuing to move a little bit higher. So, and again, you can see just almost going parabolic away from the moving averages, accelerating as it goes. As crazy as it is, I think it might even be targeting 3,500 at this point in time. But for sure in a bubble, ordinarily under these circumstances, we would have had a bigger correction, I'm pretty sure. So yes, my expectation for now, absolutely, that we'll see this continue to push higher. Any pullbacks for me would be seen as buying opportunities. Although I do see some divergence here, I need to see more failure in the price action to take it any more seriously. And that weekly just continues to tick over. The monthly is not that ridiculously overextended at this point in time. So it is what it is, as they say. It just continues to retain that bullishness. I certainly wouldn't be shorting it at this time, I guess is what I'm saying. Crude oil. So crude oil continues to just come down and test these support levels. This is West Texas. And ultimately, there's a lot of pressure on it to break through, but there's a lot of buying at these key levels. So very cautious about that. But yes, that pressure is still more to the downside, possibly more 60-40 than anything else. If we move across and have a look at the global indices. So having a look here at the Dow. So noting that as I record this, we have got this bearish candle forming here in against the moving averages and looking very much as though its intention is to continue. So we'll see how we close for today. If we break the low of tomorrow, I would expect this to continue down to the downside. From a monthly perspective, we're in a really good area to possibly find support. We've definitely got a downtrend on the weekly, but it's really about the levels where we are at the moment. However, I would say that this does look intent on heading lower. S&P, let's have a look as well. Also setting up with a bearish candle here, looking very much intent on heading lower. Again here, I think that it's fair to say we would see this continue to head lower. Very curious to see where it finishes by the end of this week. NASDAQ also setting up here as though it is intent on pushing lower. So again, this could, we're stuck here really between there not being a clear trend on the weekly. At some point, if we're going to be in this for longer, we need to see a weekly retracement fail to break up above 21,000 and continue to head lower. For now, it feels as though we're just sort of starting to hit that territory. I'm not going to conclude at this time. I'm going to wait for the technical confirmations. Excuse me. Wait for that. All I can say is that at least currently it looks as though it still wants to test lower. We'll have to see where it closes by the end of the week. Even the Russell 2000 back in here on the monthly, overextended a little bit there on that weekly. But that daily saying, look, I think I want to push a little bit lower. We'll see, because again, after whatever comes out on FOMC, we could see a bit of a correction, and then Friday we could finish low. So there's quite a few different variables that could impact stuff here. Would say though, FTSE still continuing to hold, tread water, looking bullish. I like the finish of last week, bullish candle currently. So it has, look, the wicks over here struggling a little bit, but it does have upside potential. The DAX, excuse me, just continuing to push higher, but that divergence is also still here. So this is definitely operating a little bit extra juice over here. It's starting to become overextended. I'm still anticipating in this area. I don't think we're free and clear of this. I'm still anticipating a correction at some point, and I think it started to become a little bit more disjointed, and it certainly is a little bit overcorrected here. So very cautious with the DAX at this time, waiting for a bigger correction to still come on this. Just not really happy with this current divergence. Cryptos, Bitcoin, let's have a look at that. So Bitcoin coming up, finding some resistance here, also looks very much set on hitting lower based off what I see on the daily here. I would see that MACD slowing down a little bit, so possibly it's going to find a bit of support here. It's slowing down, coming down to test this level of support. Sure, excuse me, I'd like to see how it closes the week out, but currently, as we speak, looking more bearish than bullish. Ethereum, also consolidation sideways, broken through a key level of support. There's definitely more potential for downside. Let's have a look at the MAG 7. So Apple again pulling back, also looks like it's a little bit more bearish. The monthly here is a great place for it to find some support. It's a little bit overextended on the weekly. It's below that 50-period moving average, but got to say, given the fact that the daily is very overextended, it still seems like it wants to go So it'd be very interesting to see where it closes by the end of this week here as well. Microsoft pulling back into the moving averages and looks like it's trying to head off already. Looks like a once more downside. Amazon gapping down, producing a lot of wicks underneath, so a lot of buying at this key level. You can see key level of support. Key level of support here, and again it's a good place for it to potentially recover, but I'm not seeing that just yet. Again, I need to see how we hold out at this level. Alphabet continue to push low even today. Look at that, really pushing down, breaking past these lows, possibly heading down towards these previous lows here, so a little bit more further downside. Like I said, we could find by the end of the week we finish up and we get a really strong recovery, but not seeing it, just not seeing those clues. Daily looking very keen on heading lower. Apple as well. Sorry, Meta, I beg your pardon. Looking as though that's got further lows, heading down towards that 550 mark. Nvidia coming back up, certainly actually quite strong, relatively speaking. Look at that strong bullish candle from last week. Look at where it is. Guys, this whole area just doesn't want to quit. It's got nothing above here. There's no buyers to keep it going. No buyers to keep it going, but underneath here, there's just buyers propping it up the whole time. So Nvidia is fighting. We'll have to see. What I'm saying is there's nobody capitulating. There's nobody capitulating here. In other words, we're not seeing it just relax and just let go, sell off a bit, let off some of that buying pressure. My apologies, for some reason my throat is a bit irritated today. So price pulling back, continuing to head down over here. I think there's still further downside again. Like I keep saying that I'd like to see how it finishes out the week, but that's really because currently today, as we speak, Tuesday, it just looks as though it wants to keep testing lower, but we could see that turnaround. So I'm always cautious, especially given where we are on the monthly. But then again, I look at Tesla here and I feel like it really has got its eye on breaking 200. This would be a key, I think, psychological value. So we'll see. Certainly wouldn't be surprised to see it come and test to that level. Whether it breaks any low, we're not really sure about that. But the weekly candle here definitely looks as though it is interested on going lower. And you can see that sort of showing up in some of the other indices in Mag 7, so it isn't exclusive to Tesla. It's not exclusive to Tesla. It is kind of present in other markets, but Tesla appears to be sort of leading the way, in terms of that. We'll see. Again, they could all bounce and recover. We're just really going to have to wait and see how that. I'm not going to presume to think about any of those. Netflix holding up very strong. Look at it. Just really doesn't want to quit, but it is still below that 50-period moving average over here. I think it could still have further downside. It might be setting up as a bit of a head and shoulders pattern here, but holding up strong in every other respect. That is it. Why do I feel like I had missed something out, but I haven't. Ladies and gents, I'm going to leave you with this. Cautiously bearish on most of these indices. I feel like there's a little bit more downside. Very curious to see what's going to happen with US figures coming out this week. If there's no change, because some of the fundamentals are still strong and some of the stuff might be being impacted. So just not really sure to see how that is playing out. But from a media perspective, everything does seem very dark. Interesting that non-US markets appear to be coping just fine. So I'll leave you with that. Exercise some caution. There could be some good trades on the dollar pairs this week.